Are you surprised that the economy has done as well as it has when we're having a record trade deficit, the current accounts deficit, and record fiscal deficits?
Not at all, because neither of those it necessarily impedes our progress. First of all, the trade deficit is not it's not a deficit in another sense. It's a capital surplus. You look at the so-called trade deficit, and on the books, the U.S. is a borrower. We owe money to the rest of the world. But that's because the books are kept in a misleading way. If you look not at the capital, not at the balance sheet, but at the income account, and ask how much income are we getting from foreign-owned assets, from assets that we own abroad,
right,
and how much do we have to pay people who own assets here? It turns out that the outflow of funds from to foreigners is exactly equal, or I say exactly, roughly equal to the inflow. Although on the books, the value of our assets, of the assets that we own abroad, is less than the value of the assets that they own here on the books. It yields as high an income.
But there are constantly people making this argument. We don't save enough, we borrow too much, and we consume too much. On the other hand, countries in Asia especially, which have a lot of American dollars, lend, don't spend, and they're in a better position than we are.
Well, but the statement that we don't save as much is because we measure savings not by these income flows. We don't value our assets appropriately. Our foreign-owned assets are worth more than they are valued on the books because they are yielding a higher return. They are risky assets, and that's why. The thing the United States has, it's a one place in the world where people around the world can go for security, for political security. Nobody who invests his money in the United States is afraid that it's going to be taken away from him by the government except through legal taxes and so on.
So they want our debt because they think the American economy is more stable politically and economically than any other.
They want no-risk money. Let's say you're a Chinese entrepreneur, and you've got you've been one of those lucky people who have built up a lot of money. Do you want to keep it all in China? Don't you think you want to have a little no-risk fund in the United States? So that I think we are a market for people who want no-risk funds.
Okay, but there are many people who will argue that it's great danger for us that South Korea and Japan and the United States and Taiwan hold so many American dollars because if they become disenchanted, they might dump it.
How would they dump it?
They would sell it back.
Sell what?
The debt that they have, the dollars they have.
To whom would they sell it?
Your point is that there's no buyer.
Well, there are buyers. Of course, there's always a buyer. At what price?
But wouldn't that be destabilizing?
Who would lose money on that transaction?
Wouldn't that be destabilizing? Wouldn't that suggest a lack of confidence in the American economy?
Yes, it might. But the people who would lose by it would be the foreigners who held that and who dumped those dollars.
Well, then are they in a frozen position then, so that they have no flexibility?
They're not in a frozen position. They're in a position they want to be in, because that's why they're holding these assets, because they are free of risk, of political risk.
What happens if they would allow...
And in general, let's suppose foreigners start dumping their assets here. They would dump them at distressed prices. They would have low
Once
prices.
It started, this line would begin.
And who would buy them? The people at home here, the people in the United States who had confidence in the United States. So what you would have would be that the assets would go from weak hands to strong hands. It isn't going to happen because there's no reason for foreigners to dump the dollars.
But nothing is certain, is it? I mean, certainly in economics.
Of course not. Nothing is absolutely certain. But you can be pretty damn sure of what's likely to happen and what isn't.